Hi, everyone. My name is Alexandra Vasquez. I am a content marketing specialist at G2. And today I am joined by Keith Pearce, Chief Marketing Officer at Alteryx. Hi, Keith. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. And I'm really excited to have Keith here today to touch on a really interesting topic, all things analytics, automation, and the customer experience. But before we dive into too deep on the topic, I'd love to know a little bit more about you, Keith, and your involvement in the industry.
Well, thank you for that. I am a marketer at heart and a technologist at heart. My career has really, after starting very briefly in politics, been all in tech, working for small and big companies, startups, moved around the world a couple of times in that career, but doing it for over 20 years now. Started in sales and then migrated into marketing, and a lot of time in and around the customer experience domain before coming to Alteryx. So that's a little bit about me and my path to where I am now.
That's great. Thank you. And since we brought up Alteryx, I'd love to know a little bit more about not only your role at Alteryx, but kind of just Alteryx mission, especially in terms of data.
Yeah. So our mission is really around this notion of analytics for all. And what we're trying to do is what we say democratize the use of analytics across a business, so that it's not just the data scientists or the folks in the corner office or the C-levels that get to use analytics to make decisions, but it's everyone in the organization up and down. So that involves really automating what is a manual process today. And much of what is done in spreadsheets on people's desktops to a platform that collects this information, runs our analytics workflows and AI tools against it. And it can be on a desktop that's connected to the cloud, it can be on the prem, or it can be sort of in between. So that's what we're about, is creating a platform to do this so that everyone in an organization, no matter how big or small, can use analytics to make business decisions.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think this moves us over to the next question very well. And in terms of automation and analytics in business,
Yeah.
especially to how it pertains to the customer experience, how do you see these modern analytics platforms and analytics automation in general helping to influence the customer experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's on a couple of different levels. The first one's around pursuit of cost savings, and especially in this kind of macroeconomic climate, any manual process or cumbersome process or process that is full of friction for customers that analytics can help automate, or technology can help automate, is something companies are really attracted to right now. Honestly, for the pursuit of cost savings and the imperative they have to do that. And the second area is around something that for the better part of 20 years, every company has been trying to do, and that is deliver more personalized experiences in the customer experience and in the employee experience as well. So that, kind of experience for the masses is out, and the experience is tailored just for you and where you are right now is in. And then that third area is around where things can be fully automated and where people can self-serve versus where the human touch and human factors make more sense, and just achieving that balance and not rotating too far to one side or the other.
Yeah, definitely. And that brings me to the next thought, which is, everyone talks a lot about the benefits of automation, but I feel like we don't dive too deep into how that might affect different business processes. So
Yeah.
knowing all the benefits and all of us reaping the benefits very often,
Yeah.
what kind of risks do you see diving a little too deep in there could cause?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple. I think the first one is, I think consumers are savvy enough to know when the pursuit of technology and automation has been for cost imperatives. And, that's really at the expense of a great customer experience or a great employee experience. People see that. And some companies, to their credit, are pretty, bold about saying there is no human support anymore. If you want service from our airline, you're going to get it on your phone, you're going to get it on the web. and I think the undercurrent to that is there's a trade-off for a low fare. You're going to get really low service. I'm not sure that's a winning formula today. And I think that's being met with a lot of backlash by consumers that are willing to actually pay to be able to speak to someone or have a human experience. The other factor is, I think when you over pursue analytics and personalization, is that notion of the creepy factor. And I know you probably felt like this. Like, again, consumers are pretty attuned to the fact that they're being targeted. That I was just at your website and now your ads are following me around for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So, those are areas that are kind of proceed with caution, I think, for companies that are over applying analytics and technology and automation.
Okay. And so we've kind of touched on how that might mess with the human touch from the customer side. What kind of risks do you see from the business side, not just losing that customer comfortability, but also how do you think that could affect businesses like bottom line in general, messing with a little bit too much technology?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are going to vote with their mouse and their feed and their taps and their clicks, and they're going to go somewhere else. I think they're going to see more churn if they kind of overdo it. I also think so many of if you strip back and you look back at company values, so many companies' values espouse customer at the center and these things, right? And that's where they're really either showing up and being true to their values, or frankly, they're paying lip service to it and they're just saying it and it's not showing up. The real authentic, nature of where those values become real are in how they live out their employee or customer experiences. There are too many review sites, there are too many glass doors and blinds and other forums like this where that's the truth serum of what your values are, what people are saying and experiencing.
Yes, I totally agree, especially from a customer perspective. And from the business's perspective, how do you feel like, how would you define what is too much technology when it comes to analytics, automation, and the customer experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing that machines don't get and the thing that analytics platforms don't do is emote empathy and reflect empathy or empathetic experiences, right? That's a uniquely human characteristic and factor. So I think you have to, with all respect to the advances of OpenAI and ChatGPT and noticing their 4.0 launch today, you saw the backlash when that got a little too creepy. I don't know if you saw the New York Times reporter that spent half a day and basically said, please turn this off. This is crazy. But I think that's that fine line that companies have to be careful to walk. That is between using employees who have that unique personality and unique sense of wanting to help and empathy versus using machines that don't do that really well, and knowing where to use that trade-off and where to use empathy and that human characteristic in their customer or employee experience.
Yeah, I completely agree. And since you bring up kind of the newer advancements in AI, which almost seem kind of like they weirdly came out of nowhere, even though we've kind of known about them this whole time. Yeah. What other technologies have you seen evolve throughout your career that have kind of either positively influenced the way you do your job or negatively?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many things. Just working with databases in early days of sales and marketing, and learning how to do personalized emails and things like that, which seemed so cool at the time. They seem so old school now, but it's kind of one of those things that's like it can be cool again if someone can get a message that feels like it's been really tuned to them. Like the good old-fashioned email newsletter. I mean, I'm a big Peloton user, and one of the emails I really look forward to every month is like what my usage on Peloton was that month. Like, did I improve over last month, and how's my performance trending? So that's something that, like, going back 20-25 years was like novel email marketing that's kind of made its way back again because of the value of the content that's there. I mean, I'm speaking to a content marketer, so I know you will endorse this. So, that might be like, wow, you're starting with email, like really? But I think that's just one of those things where it's really the contents that matter, and it's the context that matters, right? Like I'm not real receptive to getting blasted by text when I walk by retail stores with offers. But if I'm in the course of travel and I'm going to miss a connecting flight and my airline wants to reassure me with a text message when I hit the ground, they've rebooked me, I'm good, here's a drink voucher, sorry for the delay, I'm all in. Like, I love that. So again, I'm less into the wow of the new thing. And I think tech has been a little over rotated on this is going to solve all the problems of the world, to make the message count, make it empathetic, make it in context to my experience, and make it content rich and personalized. And I think companies that can do that will be rewarded.
And as you keep seeing companies adopting these practices that you were just discussing, how do you see those kind of technologies evolving in the near future? If you could even predict something like that from in your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think AI is just going to get scary good, right? We're seeing that again and again, and we're seeing the adoption curve of that, I think, start to creep up a little bit with companies where, there's so much of early adoption of tech by companies kind of has this cool factor. Oh yeah, we're doing that. And I think with AI, you just can't ignore how powerful it is. It is learning and responding to our behavior in really, really personalized and specific ways, right? Be it, these are the next products we recommend you buy, or this is the next show series on Netflix we recommend you watch. And I personally love that. I think that's personalization on steroids, and that's great. Recognition of patterns, right? Whether that is, the thermostat in your home responding to when you're there and how you want the settings based on the time of year, or based on, your home becoming smart aware of where you are and what devices you have on you with wearables and IoT. Really, really cool stuff. Seeing some really cool stuff around pattern matching, with AI, and being able to predict the kind of products and the kind of travel experiences I might value based on what I did last time and based on how I responded last time to a certain restaurant or a certain experience I might have had. Becoming more, that pattern recognition is really, really cool. And then I think there's this notion of how to orchestrate experiences that's pretty cool. Like being able to re-engage where you left off in an engagement with a company. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating than I've just spent all this time with my insurance company trying to change my policy or trying to tweak my premiums or whatever it is. And to be able to just pick that right back up where I left off, there's some really cool things being done with that. And even in a proactive sense, reminders like, your HSA account has only got a month left before it's going to, not be usable. Here are your instructions on how to do that, for example. So those are a couple of, AI getting scary good, pattern matching, really personalizing our experiences, and then really looking at that element of orchestration and where can I pick up, no matter what channel you started that on, where can I pick up that experience and help you finish off what you started, kind of thing.
Absolutely. I have a quick question to kind of jump off of something that you mentioned. So, walking that line between creepy and useful, how much value do you think it will give these interactions to give the consumer a little bit more power on how much AI or how much tracking, how much automation is in their actual experience? Where do you see that being beneficial or not?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And that's really the irony of true personalization. I think so the government's going to have something really strong to say about that, right? And in Europe, we're adopting, and even more states are adopting more of the European model where it's like double consent and things like that to market to consumers. But I think with all respect to being attuned to how people's data is used and privacy and regulation. We're human, and our patterns of behavior become familiar to us. And when something's taken away, people generally dislike it, right? If they become used to, it used to be that Amazon told me all the next products I needed, and that was really helpful. And now that's gone. And what happened to that kind of thing? So I think, to answer your question simply, that is the very definition of personalization. I should be able to tell you, yep, I want this. I want all this proactive stuff. Here's full consent to use my data. But I also think there are a lot of things that consumers don't realize when they agree to terms. Nobody reads the 5 pages of fine print when they click, yes. They just want to download the app, that we become used to. And they've made our lives easier, and they've made our lives more convenient. And in our busy worlds, they may have streamlined things. And to take that away is kind of like pulling the needle on the record. So it's going to be interesting to see what this reckoning is going to be between, more consumer protection of privacy, which I'm all for, and reversing some of the advances we've made around convenience and ease. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the coming, months and years.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think to close us out, I think an interesting last thought would be kind of what your advice would be for companies who are trying to navigate this changing world of analytics, automation, and making sure that they're always keeping customer experience at the forefront. Kind of what advice would you give them for prioritizing that?
I mean, I think it starts with stay true to your values and what your values are. And, it seems generic, but, you might need to give them a rewrite if you really don't think you can live up to the promise of some of the declarations around your love of customer and taking care of customers and putting customers at the front. If you can't do that, I think that's okay. I think people want that kind of transparency now. And I think that transparency gets rewarded for things other than I love my customer. And I think that's for things that are sustainability related. I think those are things that are big societal issues, climate change, things like that, that, let's face it, governments haven't done a great job of getting in front of. And industry and the private sector has a role now to play in helping combat. So I think those are different kind of values, and it doesn't always pertain to customer experience per se, but I think customers will reward companies that can just be honest and frank about that, and know that part of what they're paying for and how they use that company's services or goods is a way to make the planet better. Patagonia is a great leader around this. They're super transparent about how they do things, about what their footprint is. You don't hear them declaring, customers are our love. Their love is for the earth and the environment and giving back to it and being a custodian of it. And they happen to make great products, but they don't need to declare customers they're their number one priority. So I hope that just gives you a sense of how I think that the world is changing. And I think where customers would be wise to pay heed to that, and companies pay heed to that.
So in your opinion, when it comes to analytics, automation, all of that, you're kind of seeing customers adopting the understanding that they don't need to be the top priority, and companies are allowed to have missions that are on a wider scale, and customers will kind of gravitate towards what they're passionate about.
Yeah, I think sustainability is a big theme with consumers right now, and they want to know how companies live that out. I mean, in our domain, data is the new oil was a saying of a few years back. Analytics is kind of the renewable energy, if you will, then to the future, because it's not a question of data. There's too much data. There's a lack of analytical insights into all the data and the meaning that you need to glean from that for the customer experience, for the employee experience, for your supply chain crisis, to see all these big macro challenges that are there. So automating analytics is central to whatever mission a company has, be it, being a customer experience leader or being it a number one, player in their field for market share, or whatever those attributes of their goals are.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Keith. I really appreciate your time and coming on to this call with me, and really appreciate all your answers and for discussing such an interesting topic. And I really hope you have a great day. Thank you so much.
I hope you do too. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed the conversation.